Welcome everybody once again to
The Brink.
That took a very long time for you to move across, and now you're burping into nothing. You can talk.
Have another one.
No, okay, I thought you were about to talk. How are you today? Specifically today, not just this week. Today.
Dad, because I want all the Thanksgiving food, but we can't have it.
Is that Thanksgiving right now? Did we talk about this last week?
No? Did we?
I don't know. Is it Canadian Thanksgiving now? Like this coming Monday? This is 2 in a row you've missed? Is it? Which is sad.
Yeah, I want mashed potatoes.
What is more important?
I think that's the only thing that we can't really have in pumpkin pie.
What is the most
We
important?
could have the rest of Thanksgiving.
What is the most important thing to Canadians, Halloween or Thanksgiving? Well, what's more important to?
I would say Halloween.
Really?
Well, no, I would say Thanksgiving, but I think some other people would say Halloween, but I would say Thanksgiving.
Did you do the whole trick-or-treating thing when you were a kid?
Yeah, we had the best costumes.
Name me some 3 costumes that you dress up as.
Juice box, toast, one die, like a dice, but a singular.
I'm sorry. Let's go back to juice box and toast. Like, how does one go?
My mom was awesome.
Did she literally make you a piece of bread?
Yeah. So we had this foam store, like a mattress store, I think, and we got this giant piece of foam. Jared was an egg. He was a fried egg, and I was a piece of toast.
Please tell me there's photos that exist somewhere of this.
I'm sure there are.
And the juice box?
It was made out of a cardboard box, and I don't remember what the actual straw was made out of, but it was like my entire body size.
Can we next year go trick-or-treating?
I mean, I guess.
The one time I've been trick-or-treating in my life, I was 29, and I dressed as Australian Barack Obama because it was literally the only costume I could make in like 30 seconds when I landed in Atlanta.
And you shook the hand of the man who gave you candy.
But like, is it weird for adults to go
Yes.
Well, don't you know children?
We can chaperone some children.
Who do you know that would like?
I don't know.
Like, can we just steal some kids for the night or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, just say, because I think this is a thing now, moving to Canada, that I need to experience this. Like, it's discrimination that as an Australian, I haven't just, I've had 32 years of my life, well, 31, I did it once, 31 years without doing this. So I've got to catch up.
But we can hand out candy.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
I like handing out candy.
I want to get candy. I want to dress up. Can we dress up if people show up to our house?
Yeah.
Can we? I want to dress up as, what can I dress up as? Can I dress up as Justin Trudeau?
Yes.
Like, I mean, I could wear blackface. That would kind of be...
No?
Not that I would want to, but that was, yeah. That's only relevant in 2019, probably. She's running away from me right now. She's going to pee. She couldn't have held off like 30 seconds until I pressed stop in this segment. That's awkward. Let's commentate Mallory going to the bathroom. She's removing her pants. She's taking down her underwear. She's looking at me and telling me to stop. She doesn't look impressed. She's still looking at me. But now the pants come down fully. She's telling me to stop again. Siggy is eating his food. As he does that, she gives me a less impressed look with a frowny face as the urine expels into the bathroom toilet thing. I can hear it. It's trickling down now into the toilet bowl. She still looks at me very, very grumpily, not wanting me to continue, but I'm going to because she brought this on herself, apparently. As she looks at the toilet paper, she grabs some, she unfoils it from the roll, still stares at me, thinks about tearing some off. The Extinction Movement people are probably a little bit sad that she's used so much toilet paper. She's killed at least 4 trees. She wipes, and I won't go into too much detail about that because we don't need to go into the full extent of that. She puts the toilet paper into the bowl. She pulls up the pants. She closes the toilet lid. She presses the flush. Now, the big question is here, will she wash the hands? Will she? I don't know. I can't see her. She's gone out of shot of my eyesight right now. Potentially, I can hear a tap running. I'm going to assume that she has washed her hands. She has cleaned the urine from her hands, which means she will have clean hands. And now she is walking back towards me one foot after the other, looking less than impressed, coming closer and closer to the microphone. Mallory, how was your pee?
Pants.
How was your pee?
Awful.
Why was it
Because you
awful?
were commentating it.
Thanks. All right, let's go into the next segment. We apparently took the week off from this last week, and you're dying to know what happened in Days of Our Pies as we move into the 11th episode of the first season. And you're going to find out what's happening in the 11th episode of the first season. So here is some classic Days of Our Pies.
Previously on Days of Our Pies.
Oh my god, it's him! That's the doctor in the car! With Kevin Rudd? Hold it right there, you three! You're all under arrest!
Hello, Frank. I see you're still the policeman here. Oh my gosh, Barry? That's right. It's me, Frank. Your brother. Must let me go, as there is a far bigger threat that we need to take care of. Sorry guys, I have to do my job. You're all under arrest for aiding and abetting a known criminal, as well as for terrorist activities involving the destruction of a public building and for the murder of little Billy Muslibar.
I have no idea! Oh my god, Jennifer, look! That's our shop! It's on fire! Oh my god, it's an alien spaceship!
Greetings, Earthlings. My name is Dip Dap Doo, and as of this moment, your time now belongs to me.
Like pastry in the oven, these are the days of our pies. I'm Lisa Jones, and these are the days of our pies.
The aliens had arrived early to Ramsey Bay in a destructive wave of terror. The general store, police station, and restaurant had all been destroyed, and little red slimy creature Dip Tap Doo had somehow instantly gained the title deed to the entire town. He walked down a long walkway into the main street and confronted general store owners George and Jennifer Pyburn.
Please inform me of your titles and identities. So what now? Your callings and individuality identment. Come again?
George, I think he wants to know your name. It's Britney Spears. And this is my wife, David Hasselhoff.
Okay, Brittany and Hasseltop, you are both my slaves. Enter my ship or face peril from below.
Oh my gosh, no way, get stuffed, you little turd. Jennifer kicks Dip Dap Doo and sends him flying and runs away with George, who both run towards the police station, which is in ruins. Dip Dap Doo gets into the spaceship and flies after them both, firing at them with a giant laser. Jennifer, why must we get shot every second episode? Why must these aliens want to kill us? And why? I'm fine, Jennifer. Just run away. You must go find Frank and the others. I'll be fine. You must go and live your life. Go live your life, Jennifer. Go live. I love you, and I always will. Oh, George, I love you. I live in love and I love Oprah. I will send her back for you, I promise. Just go, Jennifer. Go. Jennifer runs away from George, who is then engulfed by a big explosion and smoke. She runs straight towards the police station and notices Frank's car outside before entering the destroyed building. Frank! Frank! Roy! Hello! Is anyone alive? She hears a groan from under the desk. Hello? Hello, who's there? Help me! Help me, I'm trapped. Are you okay? Where are the others? Barry Doctor was in one of the interrogating rooms. And I think Kevin Bradbury's in the cell. Oh, the pain. Where's Frank and Roy? I don't know. Agent Victor dies under the desk, leaving Jennifer to search for the others. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Jennifer, over here. Roy needs help.
Oh my gosh, Frank! What's wrong?
Roy, he's stuck under a large piece of concrete.
Roy, are you okay? Can you hear me?
I'm fine, Jennifer. Just a little bit stuck at the moment.
Well, we need to get this off you. We need to go back for George. He was shot.
Give me a hand lifting this thing off him, Jennifer.
They both attempt lifting it off Roy and eventually get it off him before picking him up and dragging him towards the front of the building before hearing a cry for help.
Help! Help! Please, someone help! It's Barry. I must go rescue him. The building is collapsing, Frank. Leave the to rot in hell. He's my brother, Roy. I have to go save him.
Frank runs off into the next room to save his brother, leaving Jennifer to take Roy to the outside police car to go hunt for George. Just as they both do this, the alien spaceship hovers over the ruins of the police station and points a large gun at it.
Farewell, worthless humans.
Dip-Dap-Doo fires a large cannon at the ruins, creating a massive fireball. Jennifer and Roy, however, have jumped in the car in time and driven off at high speed.
Oh my gosh! Frank, you stupid man. I told you not to get after him. It's too late for them, Roy. We have to find George now. He's around here somewhere. It's all in the ruins, Jennifer. There's nothing here. Oh my gosh. Stop the car. Stop the car! I saw something! What is it, Roy? Is it George? No, it's not. Oh my gosh, it's me, Billy! Roy, Billy's dead. I know, but look! Right there, it's him! Oh my god, it is too!
Supposedly dead Billy Muesli Bar walks up to the car and to Roy's window.
Daddy, we need to talk.
How on earth did Billy Muesli Bar survive? Have Frank and Barry Doctor survived the second explosion at the police station? Did George survive being shot? And where the hell did Kevin Wright get to? Find out next time on the season finale of Days of Our Pies.
I'm intrigued. The season finale will be next week on season 1. What will happen in Ramsey Bay? You will have to tune in and find out. Now, we usually would quiz or do things right now. I'm going to quiz Mallory on something very important right now. We've talked to Colin about this a couple of weeks ago, but as the other Canadian in this podcast, you actually this week did something to do with the election. The election is now basically 2 weeks away for Canada. Very exciting times. And you watched the debate, but tell our listener how you watched the debate.
On YouTube after it was over.
I meant like
in French.
In French. Now, what made you want to watch it in Le Français?
You basically made me watch it in French.
Well, actually, you wanted to then watch it, and you kept watching it even after I told you to.
Yeah.
Okay, and
I was watching a little bit of it. Something came up on my Facebook, and then I was watching a little bit of it, and then you and I were talking about, do they all have to speak French? And I honestly didn't know that all of our political leaders need to speak French. It does make sense if they want any votes in Quebec.
How many? There's like 500 leaders, aren't there?
6. See, we were always taught that there were, I think it was 5 main. I don't know if we were taught about the 6th one in school.
So there is the Liberal, who Justin Trudeau is that's the governing party. There's Conservatives, who are the main opposition party. There's the alarm going off in the background. There's the NDP, which stands for the Naughty Do-Gooder Party.
The New Democratic Party.
Sorry, I shouldn't speak bad of these parties because they could be in control and they could deny my visa. There are the Quebecois, free us because we want our own country.
Bloc Québécois.
Thank you. There are the Greens, and there is the Vancouver Canucks will never win a Stanley Cup party.
No, it's like the People's Party of Canada.
So in other words, the Vancouver Canucks will never win the Stanley Cup. They have that bad joke. And you've never voted, ever. But if you were there right now, based on what you were watching, based on what you've been seeing, would you vote right now? Would you be would you feel like you would want to vote right now?
Yes.
Really? And what has swayed you into the opinion that you might want to vote this election?
Why wouldn't I have voted this election?
Well, you've never voted before. You don't seem to care.
There's only been one vote that I've ever been eligible to vote in.
And
I think
you
that
didn't.
Yeah. But I was uneducated and.
But now you're saying you would.
Yeah.
What particular things do you believe in that you would vote for?
Oh, look at the kitty cat.
Yes, the listener can see the cat right now. What issues are you drawn to?
I don't know. I feel like I'm drawn towards environmental issues and tax issues and health care.
What are you? Do you want to tell me who you would vote for then, based on those viewpoints, or do you don't know?
I just think that. Okay, where I sit at the moment, I would totally vote NDP.
And that's the Singh guy.
Yes.
Yes.
And he is my understanding is that NDP is the like workers' government, which is where I would generally sit as a human living in Canada, a citizen. There we go. I also think that the Liberal and, well, the Conservative leader, I just want to slap upside the face. And, like, I don't mind Trudeau, don't get me wrong, but I think it's time for change. And that
You only just came in 4 years ago, though. You just had change. Poor Justin.
didn't do a great job.
And I'm not just saying this to suck up to your fearless country leaders because I want to get into the country, but I like Justin. I think from what I have seen, he's done okay. That's just my opinion. I was very excited. I got to vote this week in a I got to vote in New Zealand. I, for the first time in my life, have voted out of Australia, and my vote didn't end up counting because the person I voted for to be mayor didn't become mayor.
But it did count.
Well, it counted. Yes, it did.
I think that's not how you should say that.
But, that's the democratic process. The thing that I found very interesting about voting here is that, and you saying that you might have a similar process, it's called the first past the post system here. So basically, most people in Australia would be familiar with you vote and you have numbered boxes, and you generally either have the option of just putting a number 1 next to a person and that's it, or if there's 10 candidates, you can go 1 through to 10, and obviously whoever, say, gets a number 9 gets less of a vote than, say, the person who gets number 2. Here, I had, say, I think there was like 20 candidates and I had to tick up to 12. So I've not been used to that before. So I just ticked and they're all weighted equally. And you've just Googled this and it appears that you do have this first past the post thingamajig. So it was a unique thing. I found it very interesting. But these are the legislative elections here in New Zealand. And the unique thing I find about these elections is that they're all on the same day for legislative councils, whereas in Australia that's definitely not the case. And I would probably liken these elections more so to our state-based elections. And would you have provincial elections? Like what the premier of your provinces? Are they all at the same time, or are they just held separately?
I couldn't tell you at all.
So, yeah, well, that's how they are here, because they don't really have states in New Zealand or anything like that. Mallory's already sat down, because I don't know why. I'm still talking to you. Do you want to stand up and talk? Okay. Well, this segment died, so I guess we're ending it. Always love bringing you a classic interview, and this week we're going to bring you one of my personal favourites. Way back in 2009, we had a big push, getting a lot of different people on the show, and one of the biggest pushes we had was to get Australia's first ever Winter Olympic gold medalist, the legendary Mr. Steven Bradbury. One of my favourite interviews of all time. Here it is, our chat that we had with Steven Bradbury back in 2009.
We're extremely honoured to have our next guest here on the Brink. He was a member of the 5,000 metre short track speed skating relay team that claimed Australia's first ever Winter Olympic medal in 1994 and became the first ever Australian Winter Olympic gold medalist in 2002 after his iconic last man standing victory in the 1,000 metres. He's also been honoured with the Order of Australia for his contribution to short track speed skating, as well as being named one of Australia's 100 greatest Olympians. Please welcome to the Brink, Steven Bradbury. Steven, thank you very much for your time today.
Too easy. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. Steven, how about yourself?
Yeah, it's quite balmy in Queensland here today, so it's nice.
It's nice and getting a bit warmer here in Hobart. I'm sure we're not as hot as you guys are up there at the moment.
Definitely not. No, I think we're looking at about 35 today.
We'll be lucky to reach 30, but for us, that's a nice hot day. I'm sure you would be, though, being a speed skater, you'd be used to a bit of the cold weather, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, I've been retired for 8 years or so now. I did spend most of my life going from winter to winter, so the moment I retired, I've been enjoying summers, most definitely.
Sounds good to me. Now, what originally made you want to get into the sport of short-track speed skating?
My dad used to do it. He was the national champ a couple of times in the mid-'60s here in Australia. That's kind of as far as the sport went back then, so he never got to really see where he sat internationally, but he got me into it as a youngster, and yeah, I suppose had a bit of talent as a kid and was able to stave off some of those things that a lot of athletes don't fulfill their dreams through, alcohol, girls, that sort of thing when you get to your early teens. And, was able to kind of make the World Championship team when I was 15 and see the sport globally. and took it from there.
Was there a reason why you chose short track over long track? Was your dad into short track more so than the long track?
Well, we don't actually have any long track rinks in Australia. Track is a 400-metre ice rink, like an athletics oval, and you actually race against the clock rather than against other skaters, so the fastest time wins. Short track is on a normal size rink where they would play ice hockey or where you go general skating. So one lap is 111 metres and you actually race in packs on the same track. So it's 4 skaters in a race. If you finish first or second in your race, you move through to the next round of the competition until you get to the finals and you figure out the medals. So I considered going long track a couple of times in my career because my body shape was probably more suited to long track than short track, being one of the bigger guys on the ice in short track, but I would have had to move overseas to do long track and didn't want to do that.
Do you think that, considering that you're mentioning that we don't have a long track skating rink in Australia, do you think that's something that maybe in the future they'll consider, or do you think we're just focused on the short track?
Oh, long track rink is a big call to build in Australia. They're massive, massive facilities. You know, you think the size of an athletics track, and you've got to build that out of ice, and you know, realistically put a roof over it. I don't think its dollars and cents are going to stack up to build one of those in Australia. We do have a fantastic facility that's almost complete, a dual ice rink surface at Docklands in Melbourne, which is going to be the centre for Australian ice sports, with the national short track program will be shifting from Brisbane to Melbourne. It's due to open in about 2 months' time, so they're hoping to get it open just before the Winter Olympics.
Do you think that will then increase the chances of, say, Australia getting more success when it comes to the Winter Olympics?
Well, it definitely will in short track. I mean, we have a good result in short track over the years, but those rinks being built, and hopefully there'll be some funding for development of the sport, so we should, you know, be able to target maybe an 8-year plan and hopefully have some new skaters coming into the sport that will compete for us at the Olympics in 2018.
Was it a difficult sport to get established in, considering Australia isn't generally known for our winter sports?
Yeah, it's certainly not mainstream, that's for sure, and it's not going to be a sport that takes up a lot of television time in Australia anytime soon. It hits pretty hard every time the Winter Olympics is on every 4 years, and it is an exciting sport. It's a sport that, you know, it's got the element of danger. It's fast, and it's you have to be strong, you have to be fit. You know, it combines all the elements of sport that a human being needs to get good at to succeed in. It's not just about being really endurance-based fit. It's not just about being super strong like a weightlifter. You know, you've got to have a supreme mix of everything. But probably one of the key ingredients is lactic acid tolerance, being able to cope with that pain build up in your muscles and not slow down. And that's probably the key ingredient in short track.
Lactic acid tolerance. That's a terminology I don't think I've ever heard before, Stephen. I'm sure you could, if you could promote that well enough, you could get more kids involved, promote the danger aspect you're saying, the excitingness, and then, you know, it could be primetime TV action, you know, in 8-year plan.
Yeah, well, it's a good television sport. Unfortunately, the speed doesn't quite cross over. I mean, you do 55 kilometres an hour, which when you're standing next to the barrier at the ice rink and a guy goes past you doing 55 k's an hour, it just looks insanely fast. And when you hit the barrier doing over 50 kilometres an hour and you stop, that's fairly exciting to watch as well.
No, I can see why they have the barriers there.
Yeah, well, they're padded. But television doesn't quite do it justice. But, even still, as a TV sport, confined in such a small arena with the crowd being right on top of it, the atmosphere at the Olympics just blows your mind. It's incredible.
And that was always your goal, to reach the Olympics?
Once I made the national team when I was 15, I wanted to make the Olympics and see if I could be the best in the world. And
you got that chance, I suppose, in 2002, of course, with your gold medal. Now, of course, back in the early 90s, Australia did win the World Championship in 1991. Did you feel disappointed being listed as a reserve for the 1992 Olympics?
I was actually part of the team in 91 when we won the World Championship, and had some very good form leading into the 1992 Winter Olympics, which was my first. That was about a month or two before the Games, and I got a bit of a knee injury, and I started messing with my equipment. Your blades are actually bent, offset, angled. Everything is geared towards turning left, and it is an art to get your equipment set up properly, and back then that art wasn't as refined as well as what it is now, and I just couldn't find that feel, and basically lost the plot in the lead up to the Winter Olympics and ended up sitting on the sidelines as the reserve, which was very disappointing. especially as we were the favourites to win the relay, being the reigning world champions. And it was even more disappointing to see Richard Nozelski, who was arguably our strongest skater at the time, kick one of the blocks and fall down, and we didn't get a medal there, but we were able to come back at the next Winter Olympics and get that bronze medal you spoke of in the lead-up, Australia's first Winter Olympic medal.
And that must have been a fantastic feeling to know that you were part of history, and you'll always go down as being part of that team that claimed Australia's first Winter Olympic medal.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. That was our goal. We knew that we were one of the strongest 3 relay teams in the world, and in some ways a little disappointed that we only got the bronze, but being that we were able to take the monkey off the back, so to speak. I mean, there'd been a lot of contenders over the years in Australian winter sports that had possible chances to get medals. Danny Carr and Colin Coates in long track speed skating were probably 2 of the names that could have got it in the past but didn't. We were able to do that, and that was an incredible moment to share with your teammates, and the nation was gripped by short track speed skating for 5 minutes in 1994.
better 5 minutes than none at all then, Stephen.
Yeah. Yes.
Give it 8 years later, and I suppose we got a bit more gripped with that. Now, in the between when you won the medal in 1994, and of course when you concluded with the gold medal in 2002, you suffered a couple of serious injuries in your career, including getting sliced in the leg and also breaking your neck. After those injuries, were there any doubts in your mind? Did you think that's it? You're never going to be skating again?
When I got my leg cut open, that was an extremely serious injury. I had 6 litres of blood and I lost 4 of them on the ice in about 60 seconds. So it's funny, you learn a lot about yourself when you're put in a life and death situation like that one, and I learned a lot about myself then, and kind of realised how much power that you really do have inside yourself when you're faced with the possibility that you might die. And I was able to use that as a positive when I came back to the sport. I was only 21, so it never entered my head that I wouldn't skate again. It was only a matter of when I felt as though I had a lot of unfinished business. I got my leg back up to the same strength, but I unfortunately never got the power back in it, that explosive power that I had prior to getting my leg cut open. So that was something that I always had to contend with in the back of my mind. And, from 94 onwards, not having that explosive power, how much was I down on what I could be? But I was able to put that out of my head. The other one was when I broke my neck, which was only 18 months before winning the gold medal, and that was a different story. I was in a halo brace, one of those things that get screwed into your skull and you look like a human built inside. I was wearing one of those for about a month and a half, and I had a lot of time to think, and it came down to, I was arguably past my best at that stage. I'd raced for Australia at 3 Winter Olympic Games, and the bottom line was that I hadn't done my best at any of those Olympics. And that's the biggest stage in the world, where you're supposed to produce everything and more that you got in yourself. And I knew that I hadn't done it. And really, that was all that mattered, Chance to win. I was the favourite to win the 1,000 metres in 94, and I got knocked down in the first round. In 98 in Japan, I had good chances to win there too, but I got sick in the lead up to the Olympics and I didn't skate well. When I broke my neck a couple of years before Salt Lake, I decided that was where I was, the big turning point in my career, whether I was going to keep going for that next 18 months or not. And I decided that I don't really have an option here. I've trained my guts out at this sport for 10 years, and I'm not satisfied because I haven't done my best at the Olympics. And all I wanted to do up to that point was win a gold medal. I didn't have one. Chances are I wasn't getting one. So I decided, got to change my goals, and I reevaluated and said, okay, I'm going to skate. I'm going to do that last year and a half. I make it to Salt Lake City and I'm going to skate. When I do, I don't care where I finish anymore. Probably not going to get a gold medal. I'm probably not going to get any medals. But as long as I could get off the ice after one race and say to myself that I finally came to the Olympic Games and did my best, well then I decided it didn't really matter where I finished anymore. And 18 months of hard work over the course of 12 wasn't that much anyway, so I was just going to get off my ass and do it and see what happened after that.
Of course, in the quarterfinals, you were originally eliminated, but before the defending world champion from Canada, Marc Gagnon, I believe his name was, he was disqualified, and that moved you into the semis. When you were originally eliminated, did you think that's it, I've got to concentrate on my other events, or did you sort of have slight hope that he might be getting disqualified with the events that were happening on the ice at the time?
Yeah, I thought that, and I crossed the line third in that quarter final, and I remember looking at the draw list before that quarter final, and I kind of swallowed and got a lump in my throat because that quarter final was absolutely stacked. I had the toughest one on paper by far with Marc Gagnon, who was 4-time world champion, and Apollo Ono, the American, who was the favourite. And you got to finish first or second to get through to the next round. And in short track at that stage, there was the big four, and those two guys were two of them. So to knock one of them off was going to be a tall order. For me, in that quarter-final, I skated the house down. I made my move at the right time. I was on the front from 6 laps to go through till about 1.5. Maybe I spent a bit too much of my legs maintaining that speed on the front, but, you know, there was a few eyebrows starting to be raised after I'd been on the front for 4 laps. It was, could I hang on and win it? And, you know, I thought I might be able to do that for a second too, but, yeah, unfortunately the legs got a bit tired, and Apollo and Gagnon got by me. And fortunately for me, Gagnon got disqualified for a move he made on the Japanese guy in the race, Tamura Namoya, and that elevated me through to the semi-finals. But no, I wasn't disappointed because I knew that was the race where I'd put it all on the line, and I'd given everything that I could give, and, you know, I was able to put those demons to rest the previous 3 games and finally do my best at the Olympics.
Yeah, so I mean, even if you had have gone out in that quarter-final and Gagnon wasn't actually disqualified, you still would have held your head up high after those games, knowing that you put that effort in that you were talking about before.
Oh, totally. That was the true meaning of success for me right there in that quarter-final. And, you know, if I had gone out in that quarter-final and not through to the semis, I wouldn't be talking to you today. But I'd be as satisfied in my head. And you know, and for me, in the big scheme of things, the gold medal was fantastic, and it was the ultimate way to finish my career. But it wasn't the true meaning of success. Now,
of course, in the semi-finals, you went through after there was a crash, of course, too, on the final lap. But there's 1 lap remaining in the final. You're 5th, you're last. You're getting ready to congratulate the gold medalists. Are you thinking about a nice warm shower and just sort of thinking to yourself, oh, I made the final. That's good reward for what I've just been achieving all my life?
Yeah, I was excited to be in the final. I was realistic that at 28 years of age and the older skater, not just in the final, the older skater in the entire short track field, that 4 races in 2 hours was probably going to be a bit too much for my legs, because you go through heats, the quarters, the semis with about half an hour rest in between. So from the heat to the final is about 2 hours, maybe 2.5. And I was, you know, kind of realistic for that lactic acid thing I spoke of earlier. The recovery might not quite be there for that 4th race in 2 hours. And I was also pretty confident, and after speaking with my coach, that the other guys in the final, none of them were interested in picking up the silver or the bronze. The other 4 guys in that final, they all wanted to win. And that meant that there could be a good chance of an accident or some kind of mishap on the last lap. It didn't look like that was going to be the case. I'd gotten tired and dropped off about 15 metres, which for me was disappointing because I was a stronger skater than that. And, you know, to drop off in the final at the Olympics was, for me, not a big highlight. I like to watch the races where I actually skated my best, and, you know, in truth, that wasn't one of them. Chinese guy fell down into the last turn, and I thought, well, that moves me up to 4th. That's not really any better than 5th. And setting up my final turn, I saw the other 3 guys go down out of the corner of my eye, and I knew from then that I didn't need to skate anymore. I just had to get around that final corner and glide across the finish line, and I was going to go across first. I didn't know if I should celebrate or hide in the corner.
I just remember the images, though, just that look on your face. It was fantastic. And it brought out something in Australia. You were talking about before how sort of every 4 years we pay attention to the Winter Olympics, but there was just something about that moment. It not only spoke volumes for Australian sport and an Olympic sport, but also just the true Australian spirit. I mean, you may have been 15 metres and last behind, like you were saying before, but you didn't give up. You could have just pulled off or, you know, deliberately crashed, but you kept going, you held on, you won the gold medal, and no matter what anybody says, Stephen, you are an Olympic gold medalist, and they can never take that away from you.
It's moments like that, and, you know, and there's countless ones of them in Australian sport over the years. You might think of Dean Lucan or somebody like that winning the gold medal at the '84 Olympics,
Absolutely.
or John Seaman or Duncan Armstrong. You know, those moments just stick in your mind. Or Kieran Perkins at Atlanta '96, and, you know, for me, it's at the moment with all this Crawford report stuff coming out saying that you know, that funding Olympic sports isn't value for money. It just makes me cringe on the inside that, you know, Australians could be deprived of those future moments because we're not prepared to fund the lower profile Olympic sports as such. And, you know, I've had people tell me that moment was the most Australian thing they've ever seen. And, you know, for me, those kind of Olympic moments are right at the top in the Australian psyche and things that Australian people value. So it'd be very disappointing to see Olympic sports fall off the radar because they're not going to get funded anymore.
I couldn't agree with you more about that, Stephen. We're talking about that in the show today, actually. And considering that I don't think there's an event anywhere in the world that draws together the world as much as the Olympics and brings a country like Australia, whether you like sport or hate it, everybody still pays attention to the Olympics. And it does. It brings a nation together. And I couldn't agree with you more saying that those moments are just burnt into people's memories. And as I mentioned in the introduction before, of course, you named one of Australia's 100 greatest Olympians as well because of that one moment. I mean, that must just be fantastic as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's it's always nice to be remembered for something you did, but for me, it's continually rewarding to know that through something that I did, I'm able to provide inspiration to others. Even today, people refer to that last man standing, never giving up, doing a Bradbury thing, and through the motivational speaking that I've become fairly proficient at these days, talking in corporate land or at schools or sportsmen's nights or whatever. I love the feeling that I'm able to give to other people to just maybe sit back and think, if I try a bit harder at this goal of mine that I've got, whether it's in their business or their sport or whatever, the rewards are there if I'm prepared to stick it out.
Absolutely, Stephen, and you certainly are inspiration to many. I give you that one. Now, just before we're getting towards the end of the interview here, but how do you think Australia will fare in a couple of months' time when it comes to Vancouver next year?
We have our strongest Winter Olympic team to date, no question. The team is packed to the rafters with medal chances. The team will be probably 35 to 40 athletes. We have Tora Bright, who's the #1 women's snowboard half-pipe rider in the world. Jackie Cooper and Lydia Lasilla, who are arguably the two biggest favourites in women's aerials. Dale Beeg-Smith, our expat Canadian who won a gold medal for us in Torino.
Absolutely, I remember
4
that.
years ago, and he'll be one of the favourites for the men's moguls. And then there's a whole host of others in other sports. Tatiana Borodolina, who is an expat Russian who now is skating for Australia, who'll be one of the big contenders to win a medal in the women's 500 metres in short track speed skating. The list goes on. Jenny Owens in ski cross, Damon Haler in ski cross. The team is just really thick, and there's no numbers fillers in our 35 to 40 athletes. So realistically, we could get 4 or 5 medals in Vancouver next Feb.
And that would be fantastic, definitely, to come back from a Winter Olympics. And considering you were talking before about the report about the Olympic funding, to come back from Vancouver, here's 5 medals, shove this in your face, Australian government, this is what we need, shove this up your blunt and smoke it, give us more money.
Yeah, damn straight. I like your adjectives there, Ben. Very good.
I tried to calm it down a bit.
in winter sports, with our 8 program winter sports that we have as part of the Olympic Winter Institute, they're all so limited numbers with the athletes that are amongst them that they don't really require that much funding because there's such a small group of athletes in them. But those athletes are in the top level in the world, and they're 100% committed to bringing back medals from Vancouver. So, in my mind, it's pretty good value for money, really, because there's not that many athletes to fund.
Absolutely. And you were saying before there's only about 35 to 40 members. I mean, compare that to our Summer Olympics team, which is a couple of hundred people. So, I mean, you look at your value for money and you bring, say, 4 or 5 medals out of a team of 40. I mean, that's what, like 1 in every 8 people comes home with a medal? You don't get that for the Summer Olympics.
No, definitely not.
Now, look, Stephen, just before we wrap things up with our 5 questions we like to ask our guests, I should mention too that down here with the Brink, we're trying to bring the Olympics to Hobart. We're trying for the 2020 Summer Games. We have spoken about possibly trying to get a combined winter effort in there. Now, if we were to include short track
don't you actually have to have summer to have the Summer Games?
Well, that's true. That's the thing. We'd probably be more of a chance at the Winter Games, because it's nice and cold even in summer. But if we were to hold short track speed skating and we could say, organise the event so the competitors were to fall over in the last corner like they did in Salt Lake, could we coax you out of retirement to win a gold medal at a home Olympics?
Yeah, well, maybe you could freeze over the Derwent. or freeze over the Sydney to Hobart and I'll skate my way down there.
Have an outdoor speed skating, back like the classic Olympics. None of this artificial ice stuff. You know, we have natural ice in Hobart. That would work a treat.
Yeah, I'm not sure how your Olympic aspirations are going to work out down there, but I wish you every success nonetheless.
Oh, they're going very well, Stephen, I assure you that. Now, just as I said, we'll wrap things up with a set of questions we like to ask our guests. It'll only be whittled down to 4 questions due to the fact that one of our questions we can't ask because my co-host isn't with me. So if you're nice, ready and relaxed, these questions aren't that hard to answer. So I wish you all the best of luck with them, Stephen. First of all, what is your favourite type of cheese?
Better, extra tasty.
Extra tasty. Gotta love the extra part in front of the tasty there. It makes it extra good. Are you a folder or a scruncher?
Definite folder.
Oh,
Don't
again.
like the crunching thing at all.
Yes, we're on that bandwagon here too of the show. Folding people are intelligent people and they're Olympic gold medalists. We can use that as a slogan. That works well, Stephen. I like your thinking. Question number 3. Are we alone in the universe?
Ooh, do-do-do-do. Yes.
Yes! We have our first ever yes! Really, what's your thinking on that one, Stephen? May I ask you that?
I don't buy into any of this extraterrestrial activity until they can show me some solid proof.
I like that. Groundwork and proof. You are our first ever guest to ever answer yes to that question. That's another first you can put on your resume. Fantastic. And our final question we want to ask you here today, Stephen, is what event would you like to see at the Hobart 2020 Olympics? Can be anything. Doesn't have to be a sport. It can be dodgeball or bullfrog riding. Anything. Let your imagination run wild, Stephen.
Ooh. Gee, there's so many things going through my head right now. How about the sheep toss?
The sheep toss. I like that. New Zealand would do well in that one. They might take that a bit the wrong way, though, and think of it something else. Thanks very much, Stephen. That about wraps it up for our interview with you today. Thank you very much for your time and wish you all the best of luck with your commentating for the Olympics in February and everything else in your life that goes your way.
Thank you very much, Ben. And, looking forward to the Winter Games. You can check that on Channel 9 and is broadcasting that and starting on February 12th. Should be fun.
Of course, most people listening to this show would know that Mallory and I host a weekly radio show in Southland, in Invercargill to be precise, on Radio Southland 96.4 FM. It is called the Ben and Mal Variety Hour, Wednesday evenings, 8 p.m. New Zealand time, so that makes it about 6 p.m. Australian time, and we have a lot of fun. And I want to play a couple of snippets from the last couple of weeks for you to show you how much fun we actually have. The first we like to call hashtag Ducks Can Drown, and the bit after that follows that I like to call Speaking Dutch. Check these out.
There's also baby ducklings right now. They're really cute.
No, we can't have ducklings. We don't have any water for them to swim in. Hashtag Adopt
Actually, ducklings can drown. I found this out today.
Usually any living creature can drown. They have lungs.
But, it's common for ducklings to drown if you give them too much water. They live on the water. No, but if you...
It's common for most things to drown if you give them too much water. Just FYI, just in case you were wanting to submerge me in a bunch of water this evening. It's all right, Ben, you can handle it. Have some water. It's all right, you're human. Go over town. Drown. You're not going to drown. Sorry.
Basically, if you give a duckling too much water when it's a duckling, it'll fall asleep, sitting in the water, and then it
Usually you
drowns.
fall asleep when you're drowning because you go unconscious and you've got no oxygen.
You're not listening
I
to
don't
me.
understand how this is any different to anyone else drowning. Ducklings aren't unique in the grand scheme of death. Only ducklings can drown. That's what we're discovering. Out of all the creatures in the animal kingdom, everyone is invincible to drowning except the ducklings.
It's just in my mind, a duckling shouldn't be something that will drown because it lives.
If you were talking about
water.
a fish drowning, I would be like, yeah, okay, yep, that's a fun fact. A fish drowning. What are the odds? But a duck that spends it's not amphibious. It breathes oxygen. Yes, it can drown. Sorry, you were saying about a duckling is susceptible to drowning.
Moving on to our next song.
More so than other creatures.
Moving on to our next song.
Will Smith had a birthday last week. He turned 51. Happy birthday, Will Smith.
Hashtag Adopt Bob.
Hashtag Adopt Bob. Hashtag Ducks Can Drown. I don't even know what to say to that. That is maybe the most ridiculous list I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm just going to, next week, I'm going to put one on this website because I think it's user submitted. The top 10 words invented by Ben Waterworth. Oogly boogly, woody de ninini, chicky de boogly boo, wookie de dee leepity boogly boo, flobada flibbity, needity needity, peppity peppity, moo. And my favourite word, honk. There.
I feel like that list is very closely accurate to my my little guy impression. What are they called? Ewok impression.
Actually, you know what that was? I hope Charlotte's listening, because I just spoke Dutch.
Oh, look at you
Look
go.
at me. I didn't even know it. I can speak Dutch. Wow.
To all of the Dutch people out there.
Yeah, boogity biggity. So I hope you're enjoying your evening. Funny times, fun times, good times. And if you want to hear the full episode of those show, the best way, I should say, to go do that is radiosouthland.org.nz. Click on the podcast section and you can find our show there and download it there. Or, of course, you can stream it directly from radiosouthland.org.nz Wednesday evenings, 8 p.m. New Zealand time. That's 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Or it's also replayed on a Friday evening, 6 p.m. New Zealand time, 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So tune in to the Ben and Mal Variety Hour. Time to close off the show, and you can come to the microphone, please, because, you know, generally this is the part where people want to hear you talk. What's the matter, Grumpy? What's the matter?
Oh, I eat pizza.
She wants... What have I made for dinner?
Dang it! I forgot to go to Starbucks and get my guacamole.
Oh, well...
What time is it?
If only you had gotten up. What time do they close?
Oh, I can get there and back in time.
Can you get me a coffee while you're down there, please?
No, the coffee machine's... Well, maybe.
A nice coffee.
I need to go right now, though.
Okay, then. We'll say goodbye to our listener.
Keep sucking those oranges. Is it time?
Yeah,
Can
just go.
Yeah. Keep
just
sucking.
go away. Don't want you here anymore. I'll have a nice coffee. Thank you very much. This is the thing. You would think we would be professional about this and edit these things out, but clearly not. Can you turn the oven off, please? Thank you. I'm glad that people who listen to this get a great insight into our lives. They learn the big things about ovens being turned off and people going to get guacamole. Anyway, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on all the relevant channels, and tune in every week for fantastic insight into our lives and everything else, because this is apparently what happens. As you heard Mallory say, keep sucking those oranges, Hobart, and good night.